Have you ever received sage advice during a tough time? Something like, just ignore it, or rise above it, don't show emotion? Sounds profound, right? As if you're being quoted an ancient philosopher. But what if I told you that this kind of advice isn't Stoicism at all, but rather a cheap and harmful imitation? Today, we're going to witness a true showdown. In one corner of the ring, popular, yet false, wisdom that only holds you back. In the other, authentic, practical Stoicism that can become your superpower. And I promise you, by the end of this video, you'll be able to spot the difference at a glance. So let's dive in, right from the beginning. What exactly is true Stoicism? It's a school of philosophy that originated in ancient Greece and Rome. Its main proponents, the rock stars of this philosophy, were figures like Seneca, Epictetus, and even the Roman Emperor Marcus Aurelius. And their core idea wasn't to become an unfeeling stone. Rather, it was about clearly understanding what we can control in this world and what we cannot, and then directing all our energy precisely towards the former. Let's kick things off with the biggest, most damaging misconception out there. Myth number 1, a Stoic is an emotionless, stone-faced robot. This image is constantly shoved down our throats. The person who doesn't get angry when someone cuts them off in traffic, who doesn't get sad when things don't go according to plan, and certainly doesn't feel any fear before a big presentation. They just exist, unshakable, like a rock. Sounds pretty cool, right? As if it's the ultimate level of self-mastery. But in reality, this is a direct path to neurosis. Trying to suppress your emotions is like trying to hold an inflatable ball underwater. You expend an enormous amount of energy, and eventually it's going to pop back up to the surface. And more often than not, it'll smack you in the face at the worst possible moment. This false wisdom teaches us to ignore the signals from our own body and mind. Now, let's look at what real Stoics actually said. And here's the surprise. They never advocated getting rid of emotions. They were human beings, not terminators. They perfectly understood that feeling anger, fear, or joy is natural. It's part of our basic human wiring. The key idea of Stoicism isn't about not feeling. It's about not being a slave to your feelings. They taught creating a tiny pause, a pause between what happens to you and how you choose to react to it. Let's break this down with a simple example. Imagine someone posts an unpleasant comment about you online. A pseudo-stoic following harmful advice would pretend they don't care. They'd grit their teeth, stay silent, but inside, resentment and anger would be boiling. This negativity wouldn't disappear. It would just settle deep down, poisoning them from within. So, how would a true Stoic practitioner act? First, they'd acknowledge their initial reaction. Okay, that touched a nerve. I feel a prick of irritation. They wouldn't scold themselves for this feeling. They'd simply observe it. Then, in that crucial, saving pause, they'd ask themselves questions. Whose opinion just got under my skin? Someone I don't even know. Is their judgment about me an objective truth? Or is it just their personal, unsubstantiated opinion? Does this random string of letters on a screen truly take anything valuable away from me? And after this brief analysis, they gain the freedom of choice. They can ignore the comment, not because they've suppressed their anger, but because they've consciously decided not to waste their energy on nonsense. They can respond politely and factually, or even with humour. The key is that their reaction will be a conscious choice, not an automatic emotional outburst. Do you see the difference? It's not suppression. It's analysis and conscious action. Stoicism isn't an armour that shields you from feelings. It's a remote control for your actions, one that stays firmly in your hand, even when a storm rages inside. Moving on to our second myth, the idea that Stoicism is all about passivity and fatalism. This is another incredibly convenient self-deception, one that often sounds something like, just accept your fate and do nothing. Everything's predetermined, so why bother? Or, simply go with the flow. Essentially, it's a philosophy that reduces a person to a mere chip of wood, tossed about helplessly in the ocean. It strips you of all responsibility, claiming that whatever happens, it's just destiny. It's a very comfortable excuse for inaction and procrastination. However, if we actually delve into the writings of the Stoics, we discover something entirely different. True Stoicism is a philosophy of profound action and personal responsibility. At its very core lies the famous dichotomy of control. While it might sound complex, it's remarkably simple in practice. The Stoics taught that the entire world can be divided into two fundamental categories. The first category comprises everything that is completely within our power: our thoughts, our judgments, our goals, and crucially, our actions. The second category includes everything else: the weather, the global economy, the past, illnesses, as well as the actions and opinions of others. Now, the false Stoicism we're discussing suggests merely resigning yourself to the second category and doing nothing. True Stoicism, however, proposes accepting that the second category is beyond our control, specifically so you don't waste a single drop of your precious energy on it. Instead, it instructs you to then redirect 100% of that conserved energy towards the first category, towards what you can control. Let's illustrate this with a practical example. Imagine you've worked long and tirelessly on a crucial project, only for it to ultimately fail due to an unforeseen economic crisis. Someone with a passive, fatalistic mindset might say, "Well, that's it. The crisis ruined everything. There was nothing I could do. It just wasn't meant to be." And they would simply give up, becoming a victim of circumstances. But what would a practitioner of Stoicism do? They'd begin by acknowledging the same reality. They'd say, "Yes, a crisis occurred. I couldn't foresee it or prevent it. That was entirely beyond my control. It's pointless to get angry at the economy or lament my fate." They accept this unchangeable fact. But here's the crucial difference. Immediately after this acceptance, they shift their focus to their sphere of influence and responsibility. They ask themselves, "All right, what was within my power? Could I have prepared the project with more resilience, a stronger buffer? What planning errors did I make? What valuable lessons can I extract from this setback to ensure my next project is even stronger? And what can I do right now to minimize the damage?" Can you feel the profound difference? This isn't the stance of a victim, but of the architect of one's own life. A true Stoic isn't someone who passively waits for fair weather. And finally, the third common misconception, often mistaken for wisdom, that Stoicism is simply toxic positivity. You've surely encountered this. It's advice like, "Just look on the bright side," "Find the positives in everything," or "Simply think good thoughts and everything will work out." This idea has become incredibly popular, promising an easy solution to all problems by merely shifting your focus. But in fact, it often just amounts to ignoring reality. It's like sticking a cheerful sticker over your car's check engine light and hoping the problem disappears. Ignoring a problem doesn't solve it. Such an approach isn't just unhelpful, it's detrimental. It makes us feel guilty for our negative emotions. If you're sad, but should be looking for positives, then it implies there's something wrong with you. This invalidates our genuine experiences and prevents us from adequately responding to difficulties. So what does Stoicism offer instead? Something completely opposite and at first glance very strange. The Stoics practice something called premeditatio malorum. Translated from Latin, this means the pre-meditation of evils, or the preliminary thinking about misfortunes. Sounds like a recipe for depression, doesn't it? Why intentionally think about bad things? But therein lies the genius of this tool. The Stoics didn't do this to induce panic, but for three specific purposes. First, to inoculate themselves against shock. When you've already considered the worst-case scenario, it ceases to be so terrifying. If misfortune does strike, it won't catch you off guard. You'll be mentally prepared. Second, to learn to appreciate what you have right now. Seneca advised sometimes, imagining that you've lost your possessions, health, or loved ones. Not for self-torment, but so that after this exercise, you could look at everything with fresh eyes and feel genuine gratitude. And third, and most importantly, for practical preparation. When you consider what might go wrong, you also start thinking about how to avoid it or minimize the damage. Before an important trip, you might imagine missing your flight, so you leave for the airport with plenty of time. Before a public speech, you might picture the equipment failing and prepare a backup plan. So, Stoicism is not blind optimism. It's a sober, healthy realism. It's a strategy that prepares you for life's storms rather than teaching you to pretend the sun is always shining. It's the wisdom of an engineer who thoroughly tests all systems for strength, not of an optimist who simply hopes the bridge will hold. And this brings us to the most crucial point, the ultimate plot twist. All this popular pseudo-Stoic wisdom, phrases like, "don't sweat it," "just let it go," or "be a rock," is actually a form of escapism. It's an attempt to escape reality, to hide your true feelings behind a mask of indifference. Essentially, it's a display of weakness, not true strength. You're not solving the problem, you're just pretending it doesn't exist. This leads to suppressed emotions, unresolved conflicts, and emotional detachment from loved ones. True Stoicism, however, is the complete opposite. It's a tool for the brave. It demands the courage to face your fears and uncomfortable truths. It requires the discipline to separate your emotions from your actions. It requires brutal honesty with yourself, and that's precisely why it works. True Stoicism doesn't teach you to ignore the storm. It teaches you to build a sturdy ship and be a skilled captain who can navigate it through any waves. So next time someone advises you to just rise above it, you'll know it's not wisdom, but an invitation to bury your head in the sand. True strength lies in acknowledging reality and acting within your capabilities. Thanks for watching this video till the end. If you found this new and useful, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss new insights. And now for a question for you. What pseudo-wisdom or bad advice have you encountered in your life? Which phrase annoys you the most? Let me know in the comments. Let's discuss.